Hey everybody, it's DUCKVILLE here. I thought it was time I actually talk about some of the changes for Legacy of the Void. It's been quite a while since BlizzCon, and I've finally gotten around to sort of reading up a little bit more. I've sort of had a look at what some people think. Some people have had a chat with me about it as well. And yeah, now I finally got some time. I thought we'd record a little VOD. Of course, I do tend to rant quite a lot, so I do have a some points that I've noted down that I'm going to be going over. Couple little preamble things. Number one, of course, everything is always up for change. We saw basically what was an alpha build, I think, at BlizzCon, so huge stuff can change, and I hope some of it does, because I do think a few little things are a bit broken in what we saw. Number two, I have not really played too much of the mod. I played a little bit, and then I was kind of like, you know what? I'm not going to touch this because it's fun and all, and the guys who put it together have done a freaking awesome job. It's actually really impressive, but I don't want to touch it just yet because I would rather wait until we get to beta, when we get to things where they're much closer to what they're actually going to be like. Now, a lot of the things there are a few things there which I think are perfect, and they're fine. Whoops, I just bashed the mic. But yeah, I am not really a huge fan of playing like an alpha like this. So, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, I'm going to sort of intersperse a game here while I'm ranting, so you don't get too bored looking at me. There is a match between Wally and Alpha, which is just a little replay that Alpha sent over to me because it was a really cool game. He was like, "Can you cast this?" I was like, "Unfortunately, I can't because I'm really busy." That's why obviously I haven't really been casting. But yeah, so hopefully that'll keep you entertained. In the meantime, so what I'm going to do is going to go through things a little bit differently. I did see over on the forums and stuff like that, people will say, they'll sort of bump a sticker. They'll say, here's this particular thing, and here's what I think of it, and that's it. And that's fine. That's an opinion, and everyone's entitled to that. I'm going to look at things slightly differently. We're going to look at things that are good for esports, so things that help to promote the game, help with growth of the game, and help with spectators in particular, which is one of the key things. So I'm going to go over those few things, and then the other thing is we will have a look at good for the game itself in terms of looking at gameplay, making the game fun, and tactics and things like that. Sort of more, you've got a part that's outside in terms of the community and the esports and the accessibility and appreciation for the game, and then you've got the second part. We'll be looking at the actual internal part of the game, I guess you could say. So we're going to look at those two particular things, and I'll once I go through each point, I'll sort of elaborate a little bit on how I think it affects that particular category that I have assigned it to. A couple of things do actually go between both categories, so in essence they're actually a really good thing that I do like. And yeah, so alright, so first thing we're going to look at is good for esports. So this is something where, as everybody knows, I am hugely into making sure that the game is properly appreciated, as it's a beautifully in-depth game that has a lot of tactics, a lot of mechanics, a lot of mastery behind it that really you have to devote a lot of time. I mean, that's the bottom line. We got the Korean players who are devoting like full-on, work hours of a day, like anywhere from like 7 to sometimes 10 or higher hours, I think was last check what I remember. And then of course the foreign players doing what they can to try and jump on board as well. And I think it's this is something where, just because I kind of feel like I've always wanted to boost the appreciation for StarCraft 2, because a lot of people, they'll play the game and they kind of they'll understand what they're talking about, and you watch a game and you're kind of like, well, this is cool, this is actually awesome, that little micro trick was so cool, I can't do that. But that's because they spend their time practicing these kinds of things. But hey, that's what they do, that's what SOS does or whatever, right? And so I think what I really am looking for mainly with some of the changes is how does this affect the community perception of the game, and in turn the outsiders outsider or even new insiders' appreciation of the game. So this is what we're having a look at here in the good for esports category. Number one, 12 workers. I do like that change. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, you guys, you better have like read up on the changes, because I'm just going to list them, and I hope everybody knows what I'm talking about, because I'm not really going to go into detail of what the change is. We're going to talk about how it affects things. 12 workers I think is really cool, because it does skip that 2 to 3 minutes that can be quite boring, especially for the new viewer. They come into the game and you're kind of like, well, Tastosis are making some jokes. Yep. And then stuff happens, unless there's a crazy cheese going on. Now, a lot of what the Team Liquid forums and such have been talking about was, how does 12 workers affect early game cheese? A lot of people are like, oh no, I won't be able to 6-pull anymore. Dude, what? People seem to have forgotten. You started with 4 workers, like, earlier on in Brood War, and it's kind of like, well, you change things up. You do a 12 pull, so what, right? So I think that's actually good that you kind of skip that. Cheese will evolve. You'll have different types of cheeses. 1-base cheeses at the friggin' 3-minute mark or whatever. So it'll still be cheesy. It'll just be a weird type of cheese, comparatively to what we have now. One thing I don't like about the 12 workers is that I'm interested to see what they'll change with Zerg scouting. I haven't really read or watched too much of like Zerg players in this, in the mod, because it's kind of interesting if you have a big map and the person's already got like 3 bases up before your Overlord even gets across the other side. It just seems a little bit wonky. But as I said, I haven't really played too much, so we'll see. And just another, by the way, I'm not really going to talk too much about balance and that kind of stuff, again, because we're in such an early phase. So I'm not really going to say too much of this is overpowered or this is broken or this is underpowered, because it's not really too much worth it at the moment. Next thing, automated tournaments, pretty cool. I do like the automated tournaments. I do wish this had come in a lot earlier. This should have been Heart of the Swarm thing, I think, but we had priority changes for some reason. The only reason that it irks me that this has come so late in the party is that I think a lot of people really appreciated having, would have appreciated an in-game kind of tournament thing. Now, back in the day, I'm sure everybody remembers Playhem dailies. They were decent. There were a lot of Playhem dailies that went on, and a lot of people played, and it was a lot of competition. I even played in quite a few myself, and that's kind of how things worked back in Brood War as well. It was kind of the community does everything. Community made the good maps. The community made the good tournaments and whatnot and that kind of stuff. Because Blizzard, it wasn't a situation of let's get Blizzard to fix this, because all Blizzard did back in the day was, fix the game, patch some bugs out, that kind of stuff. Things are slightly broken, let's leave it. Look at Defilers and shit like that. It's like, hey, Plague could be a bit scary, but let's leave it. And you adapt, and this is actually a completely different topic that I shouldn't be talking about right now, but that's a completely different thing about adapting to the game. But anyway, so the point is, automated tournament's good because it'll help people sort of get into the game a bit more. Perhaps you watch GSL and then you're like, hey man, that was a really cool play from Marine King. I can't even believe I'm using that term in 2014. That player in 2014. Hey, I'm going to try that tomorrow. I'm going to play in the tournament and I'm going to give it a roll. Let's try this particular thing that MKP did. He's still MKP, by the way. And so that'll be good. The mineral patch reduction, I think, is really cool. I like the reasoning for that, and I completely agree with it, is that it makes, by reducing the mineral patches, the quantity, the quantity in the mineral patches, you then make players have to think about, hey, I'm actually going to run out of minerals a little bit quicker now. I'm going to have to move out a little bit. I think this might affect, oddly, this will affect Terran players, particularly mech players, and also Protoss in general, I think this will affect them a little bit more. But again, totally, I'm not even sure. But I do like that change. A very weird one, the Immortal Shield change. They've removed hardened shields but put in an activatable. I really hope, I didn't see it on any videos or anything, but I really hope that it's a very visible activatable. Think Game Heart, and how a lot of the stuff in Game Heart is very visible, very colorful and vibrant. You can see when stuff's happening, colored force fields, colored guardian shields, stuff like that. I hope that the Immortal thing is very visible, so that you can see, because that adds to, hey man, this guy's pressed the button on the Immortals and he's gonna go to town with this Immortal, and I hope he doesn't take too much damage after it wears off, blah blah blah, that kind of thing, because it makes it much more fun, as opposed to, and this is why I really like this change, as opposed to Immortals before, which was kind of like, I'm just going to march them forwards and they'll kill tanks. That's it. It's kind of like, okay. So I do like that. And a similar sort of thing for the Ravager, one of the new Zerg units. The Ravager has the, what's the freaking thing called? I think it's called Corrosive Bile or something like that. You launch it up into the air and it comes down. The fact that that can remove force fields is actually really cool. I like that. I appreciate that Ultras and Archons and Thors, I think it is. I'm going to assume it's Thors. I don't even remember, because you never see it. But they can all break through force fields, and that's all well and good. But it's never a tactical thing. It's similar to the Immortal example I gave before, where it's kind of like, I'm just going to march it forwards. I'm going to march an Archon forwards, and hey, if it busts down a force field, that's cool. Very, very rarely in PvP did you ever see someone say, hey, I'm going to bring this Archon to the front, I'm going to push him through. It would happen in some circumstances, but it just never really felt like it was hey, that was a skillful move. Whereas this, it's really cool. In fact, in the replay we're kind of watching, you see times where Wally is busting down a couple of force fields to open the door for the rest of the Zerg units to push through, and it's really cool. I really like that, so I do like that. I think that's really good for esports, because you can look at it. Even a newer player will kind of think, hey, this is shooting over there so that it breaks the force field so that the guy can move through. That's pretty cool. Brent Rambo. All right, next sort of thing we're going to talk about is good for the game. So this is things that are they help gameplay, they help fun and tactics internally. Think of it a little bit more internally. Archon mode, awesome. Back in the day, this was called Team Melee in Brood War. It was really fun. The main reason that I do like this is because it helps build appreciation for the game a little bit, in the fact that a person can, let's say you're good at macro, right? Me, right? For example, I'm pretty confident in my macro abilities, especially Protoss. My micro sucks, so, right? So what you can do, team up with a friend. Hey, buddy, you handle macro, I'll handle the micro, and we'll do some crazy blinking stuff or whatever, right? And so you can practice that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool, and it's really fun. We got to see it a little bit at BlizzCon, where they played, a couple of the Korean players played a little bit of Archon mode, and it was pretty cool. You got to see, I think, who was it? It was MC that was bagging everybody. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Allied Commanders, I think this is what I would like to call a value add, which is something that I'm going to take from work terminology. Where it's going to be a nice little cute thing to add in there, which helps to build a little bit of a appreciation for the game. Allied Commanders, if you don't know, I'm going to read this one out because I didn't even know this until just when I was reading stuff before. So you join the battle with a friend in an open-ended cooperative experience. So blah blah blah, play campaign style objectives, level up commander to gain new units, abilities, blah blah blah, etc etc. So I'm thinking Perfect Dark cooperative mode back in Nintendo 64. Everyone should remember that, unless you're too young. So that should be fun, and I do like that. Automated tournaments, again, this comes across to this side. I think that's really good for the game, as we spoke about. It means that it's something that you have added into the game, which people really will appreciate. I do, from a tactical perspective, really like 200% warp-in damage and 8-second warp-ins for Protoss. I think previously I I don't know if this is just me, but I kind of look at when a Protoss warps in a line of zealots, or a line of zealots and a couple of Templar, and start warping in Archons and crap like that. I kind of look at that and I think, is there any real tactical skill in that? It's obviously you have to make a decision. Is a pylon going to die, or are these units actually going to die before they get out onto the field? Am I buying time? Is this actually worth the cost? Am I going to lose something after this anyway? Blah, blah, blah. So there is a little bit of tactics, but I like the fact that it makes you think a little bit more about it. Instead of, hey, there's 10 Marauders, there's 10 Marines, instead of warping in a line of Zealots here, I'm going to warp it in a little bit further back just in case. And because it's very minimal. I know I'm sort of splitting hairs here, but it's a very minimal amount of tactics that's added in and makes it a little bit more. The risk reward scenario sort of goes up a little bit with that, so I do like that. Another thing, this is going to sound really weird, but bear with me, okay? That the campaign in single player better run smoothly, and better finish quite nicely, right? If we get Kerrigan floating into the wind again, I'm gonna break this table, because that's just gonna kill me, right? And the characters need to be a bit more stable, but that's another story. Now, the reason I want the campaign to be really good is I have no supporting evidence to back this up, but this is just theory. I think a lot of the time, I don't remember the statistics, but a shitload of people play the campaign and then never play multiplayer, right? I'll tell you what, if I was to play Heart of the Swarm story and be like, these characters are really weird, what the hell is going on? They're constantly back and forth with their emotions and their motives and shit like that. But you play a good campaign, you think, alright, that was fun. I'm going to play it again in harder mode just to challenge myself. Alright, cool. Alright, we'll play it on brutal, right? Alright, that was good. I did it. I'm really happy about that. Hey, what else is there to do in this StarCraft thing? Oh, multiplayer. Let's try that. And I just feel like it has a possibility. If you have a good story that people enjoy and they have a lot of fun with, that it can lead to some of those single players, oops, I knocked the microphone again, those single player people converting over into either spectators in the esports community. You knock them down on the esports community table and you have them there as spectators, or you have them there as players as well. And, you know, that could be actually really cool. So I would like that to happen. Small little things about the units that I'm going to talk about. I'm just going to hold this up here because I forgot some of these things. I think the Herc is awesome. I love the Herc. Even in one of my very, very few Legacy the Void mod games that I had the other day, I had a really cool moment with a Herc where it was chasing after... What was it doing? Oh no, sorry. I was chasing after someone's Herc. It was really low on health. He had a second one coming up and he friggin' clockworked over to a second Herc and got away with both of them. And I was like, that's cool, man. That's really cool. That's like that's a micro tactic that's really fun. And even as me, the person, I was pissed off because I didn't get to kill the Herc, but just watching it was really fun. So I really, really like the Herc at the moment. We'll have to see if it changes a bit. I hope it doesn't. The Cyclone, a lot of people are kind of having some adverse thoughts about the Cyclone. I tend to be in that camp as well, so we'll see what happens. The Disruptor seems to be a little bit overpowered, but whatever. Lurker and Ravager are very cool. I do like that they're there. I hope they don't overlap each other a little bit too much. I'm just worried there's a possibility that they might, especially seeing that almost every single time that I've watched a game of Legacy the Void mod, Zerg players just constantly use a Ravager and that's it. Or like, you know, Hydra Ravager Infestors or something like that. And it's kind of like, alright, well, you going to use Lurkers, or is this going to be, you know, a weird sort of thing? Of some of the changes to other units, I do like the carrier changes. As everyone knows, I do like my carriers. I hope that I would like them to get a little bit more love, perhaps. Because, I mean, let's put it out there. High five for Blizzard. After two expansions, we finally got a change for the carrier. After, what, 5 years it's going to be? Anyway, Flying Locusts, I like the changes to the Swarm Hosts. I still think as a unit, they're very, very borderline on, is this gone too far? Has science gone too far with the Swarm Host? That's the question I have. But in this game of Wally versus Alpha, there were a couple of really cool moments with the Locust, with the Flying Locusts. I found the invulnerable Nidus. I wasn't able to check with anyone if that's still a thing or not. Number one, why is it invisible and invulnerable at the same time, if that's actually true? Because it was invisible and you can't detect it, was what I understood. So either I'm wrong and someone needs to help me out and post in the comments, or I don't know. Because it just seems weird to me. If you can't detect it and you can't see it, who freaking cares if you can shoot it? Because you can't, right? Anyway, I do like that change. Not enough people use Nidus. I think the Nidus, I think the actual Nidus worm itself should be cheaper. And I want them to bring back that Nidus worm that spews creep out a little bit. That would be cool, man. It provides a whole lot of fun in terms of using that unit. But I don't know. Similarly to the Corruptor, the Nidus continues to be a point of boredom for the Zerg race. Other than that, I mean, there's all sorts of, as we said, I'm not really going to go too much into balance and the changes and that kind of thing, because I do think a few things will change. I really hope that the Cyclone changes. I hope that the Battlecruiser changes a little bit. I'm not sure if that warping thing it seems a little bit worrisome to me. And that's even as a person who likes to go Battlecruisers when you're playing mech as Terran. Go figure. Other than that, I mean, I don't know, it's generally cool. Overall, I would like, of the units, and the only thing I would want to change, take out the Disruptor and put in the Reaver. I'm just going to put that out there. Anyway, overall, at the end of the day, conclusion time, kids. I am cautiously optimistic. I am pretty happy with a lot of the changes they've made. As we've said, we've gone through some of the things that are really good for esports and some things that are good for the game itself. And overall, they seem pretty good. A few things that I would like to see. Number one, I have a huge issue with the fact that the leveling system when you're playing multiplayer is capped. Why is this freaking thing capped? At, what is it, level 35? Even in its current really boring version of this leveling thing in multiplayer, even as boring as it is, because you don't really get anything apart from a couple of different skins and that's it, why is it capped? Why isn't it just infinite? Because then at least at the end of the day, everybody's going to have the same skins. And then at the end of the day, people who care about that stuff can at least say, you know, my EP is bigger because I'm level 1052 on Zerg and you're only level 1000. It's kind of like, I just found it really weird that that's capped. I'm not sure if I could think of a reason why it needed to be capped. It just seemed really weird. I think that should be changed. I would also love to see, this is something I'm going to steal from CSGO because of the ridiculously awesome amount of esports support that Valve has put into CSGO and Dota. CSGO, if you haven't played it, has, they're called operations, where effectively, think of it a little bit like some DLC comes down into CSGO, and everybody gets a little mission booklet. The current operation is called Vanguard, and the operation, you basically get a little in-game booklet, kind of like the compendium that Dota 2 has for TI whatever, where in the booklet you get some extra little missions. Complete 8 wins on Cobblestone, or get 10 kills in the arms race missions or maps, whatever, right? And so it adds this little thing. It's kind of like a daily quest, if you will, which of course a certain company would be very well versed with. What I would love to see is a daily challenge thing. Get 15, zealot kills on, let's just use the current map. Let's get 15 zealot kills on Daybreak, right? And then you earn, freaking, even if you just put it into the current boring leveling system, you get some extra XP for your leveling, right? What I would love is to see it go into points, in-game points, that then convert into, I want to buy this little avatar thing, a zealot with a top hat. But I know this argument has been done to death. It's probably not going to happen with the current model that StarCraft 2 has. But I still think that a daily challenge kind of thing could be something that could go in. Of course, I highly doubt it will, but it's something that I would have thought about, because it adds a little bit of, why do I come back to this game? Okay, I come back because I enjoy the game, and also, hey, let's do this little mission thing. And it's a similar thing in World of Warcraft with daily quests, because except with that, there's a little bit more of a point to it. This is more so just helping out with people appreciating the game, trying different things. There's a lot of the time in the CSGO missions in Operation Vanguard where it's like, get 15 kills with a P2000 pistol. For those of you who don't play CSGO, a P2000 is a pistol that, well, personally, I rarely ever use. And so for me, the challenge of actually getting 15 kills with that is something where it's like, hey, this gun's actually pretty cool. I might try and use it a bit more. And it's so it sort of challenges a person to not only to come back and play the game continually, but also to try different things. Originally, I was a person who never used Colossus. I hated Colossus. They were just boring units. But then, of course, you get used to them. Yeah, all right, they're good units. You've got to use them. So yeah, I would love to see that. And the last little thing that I want to keep everybody to keep in mind is that the viewer, when it comes to viewer count, you go onto Twitch, you go to the game section, you see StarCraft has 50,000 viewers. CSGO at DreamHack Winter had like 500,000. Just keep in mind, guys, that the games are very different, and its numbers themselves, while they matter in a certain perspective, in another way, it doesn't really matter too much who has the most viewers. It matters how much you appreciate the game and how much you enjoy the game itself. Because at the end of the day, it is a game, and even other sports like your football, like your soccer, whatever. People, as long as you are enjoying what you're doing, then it's cool. It doesn't matter if League of Legends has 1,000 million viewers. It doesn't matter if Dota has 1,000 million viewers and StarCraft only has 50,000. It's all good as long as everybody is enjoying themselves watching it. So keep that in mind when you are looking at that kind of stuff, because I know a lot of people care about that, and they're like, oh my god, SC2 is a dead game because it only has 5,000 viewers. It's like, 4 o'clock in the morning in America where most people stream from, but hey, it's a dead game because it only has this many viewers, and CS has 1 million viewers or whatever. It's like, really? Come on. So yeah, that's the situation. That's the skinny with Legacy the Void. Some of my thoughts. Hope you have enjoyed me ranting. Hopefully I haven't gone on too long. As I said, I'll try and post this replay of these two guys playing because it is a pretty cool game. And I will see you all next time. Cheers.